Good evening, everybody. Dr. Dennis Mariano here. Welcome to our Transformational Healing Seminar. Tonight's topic, we changed it up a little bit. It was supposed to be about menopause and so on. But since I'm not in menopause, I changed it. No, I'm just kidding. So we're going to do something that's more pertinent in today's world. Maybe in another 6 months, I'll talk about that. Our focus this evening is basically about the 3 hidden causes of hormonal imbalance, adrenal fatigue, and depression. Those things usually go together. Is that true? I mean, how many people do you know really suffer from that? And it's a terrible, terrible thing. And you see that all the time. I mean, there's so many people that you see have these challenges, and they're all tied in together. And people think they're separate. But we're going to give you some information this evening to tie that together. Again, the most important thing is not information. I say this every time we have a seminar because you can Google everything, right? It's not about the information. What are the principles that allow this information to be filtered through? So number 1, you can allow it to be applied to your life. And then you have to struggle less. There's always going to be struggle in life. But if you allow these principles to guide you, then you struggle less, like the muscle testing as well. So with that, we're going to begin right away. So we always like to begin with our statement of purpose and catalyzing statement. And our purpose is basically, the mission statement is to provide the best technology in holistic health and life care. And what does that mean? Constant, never-ending information improvement. So therefore, 2 weekends ago, I went to Erie, Pennsylvania to fly there to learn about functional neurology. I got a couple of pearls from there. We're going to do more training in June again. So we'll share some of that information with you this evening. Why do we want to do this? As much as there's darkness in this world, there's a lot of people suffering in this world, we need to be here to allow each of you to thrive in your life so you could be a beacon of hope, a light for others as well. That if we can be that for others, then we can then live a life that is mission-based as opposed to just living day to day, wondering what kind of ice cream you're going to have, what kind of TV show you're going to watch, and what kind of clothes you're going to wear, what car you're going to drive. I mean, those things all burn up. That's all going to burn up. What makes us human beings is that it's not about what you accumulate, it's what do you become at the end of your life that matters. And next week, you're going to be talking about Andrea. How do you manifest these things? And you have a full house. I think we have to get a different venue because everybody's really, really interested in the manifestation, and so am I. I'll be right in the front heckling you. So next week, next Tuesday night. Yeah, we'll be here then. So let's go ahead and move forward then. So number 1, biochemically imbalanced body is the hidden cause of the adrenal stress, fatigue, and depression as well. So what happens is there's always chemical, mental, physical, right? And highest here, I would say spiritual. But it's hard to be like Maslow said, you can't be self-actualized when you can hardly eat. It's kind of hard to do that. And you're kind of get by, your legs falling off, you're bleeding to death. It's hard to think about spirituality, you know what I mean? So by becoming more balanced physically, mentally, and emotionally, and chemically, it's easier to then be the spiritual person that you are. Because I believe that we're not physical beings having a spiritual experience. We're actually spiritual beings having a physical experience. And that we were spirit before we became form. True? Mm-hmm. Because when we lose this form, you go back to spirit. Because that's who we truly are. And we can really never forget that. Because when we forget who we truly are, we begin to get distracted. We start to make excuses in our life. And the most important thing that we do that's really bad is what? We start feeling sorry for ourselves. And it's not just that. We start wallowing in it. Mm-hmm. Once you start wallowing, it's just like, you never want to get out of the mud, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we don't want to wallow. We can experience things for a moment, but we need to move on. And how do you do that? Community. And that's why we have these seminars. We need community, and we need 10 more thousand people around here so that we can all connect with each other. But we have this summer we're going to get together. Maybe you can help me with that, Michelle. Okay. Maybe you can help me with that too. So let's organize a party at the park somewhere. We can have all organic food and all that stuff, right? And people of like minds, so that we can all get together and just enjoy each other for no other reason than to have community. Don't you think that would be great?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so you guys are in charge. Talk to Jody when we can organize that. So the biochemical adrenal hormone cortisol levels imbalance, okay? And what you'll see here is that many of the stresses we encounter in life, financial stresses, exercising, not enough exercising, stressful relationships, kids, and so on, work stress. In the beginning, it's the imbalance of cortisol where it rises because your body goes into fight or flight. If you keep the stress, remember Hans Selye's stress versus distress? You guys remember that at all? It's called the general adaptation syndrome. The normal experience of stress is somebody's coming at you, is trying to stab you or shoot you, or bears running after you, trying to get your food. You should be afraid because the fear is going to drive you to do what? To run away, right? Or fight. Fight or flight, right? But it shouldn't last long. That's not the way things are supposed to be in life. That bear should eventually go away. That bullet should eventually drop to the ground, correct? And so the stress response is very immediate and very heightened, but it should do what immediately? Come back down to normal. Level out, yeah. What happens in our lives in today's world? Stays at the top. We have perceived stress that's not real, that's imagined. And here's the thing what the psychologists say, you have to really be careful by laying by yourself most of the time. You should try not to be alone, because when you're alone with your thoughts, you get in big trouble. Because 90% of your thoughts are negative. And here's the thing, you start identifying as if those thoughts are real, right, Andrea? Yeah. I mean, yeah. You start manifesting your own lies to yourself, and the ego loves to have you in the mode of stress and anger and being pissed off at somebody else and blaming somebody else, because you know what? It's got you under control, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree, yeah. So that's what happens. So now here's the thing. Because of the kind of lifestyles we lead and not living a conscious life and blaming everybody else for your unhappiness, right? Guess what we end up doing? Our adrenal hormones, instead of being here, they start to then deplete. When it gets depleted, guess what happens to your immune system? It starts to go down. When your immune system goes down, what happens to your gut? It starts to get leaky, right? The inflammation happens, your gut becomes intolerant to foods. You then get bugs in your gut. You become toxic, and then your detox pathways, like your liver and the kidneys, they start to get stressed. And when that gets stressed, you get more stress, and you have this vicious cycle going on. So here's something that's important. Here's what normal pathway should look like, where cortisol comes from. Cholesterol is where everything comes from. That's why you don't want to get rid of cholesterol, right? So the LDLs make cholesterol, make pregnenolone. Pregnenolone is the mother of all hormones because everything divides from there. Progesterone, DHEA, aldosterone. Aldosterone in the kidneys controls blood pressure. Progesterone controls cortisol in the liver, and the DHEA breaks down into the female and male hormones. Can you see the pathways? Yeah. The traditional model, when these become low because of adrenal stress, then they feed you down here. They're pushing, like beating a dead horse. You get it? What we try to do is figure out where the adrenal stress is coming from, identify it, and do something natural once we identify what stage of adrenal stress you're in. Because what happens with this is what goes into what's called pregnenolone steal. So the pregnenolone gets shunted into here because there's such high demand for it. Constantly. That would be like, somebody putting your foot on the gas in the car and you're running your engine too hot. And so nothing else works. So then you get hormonal imbalance as a female, low testosterone, right? How many people get testosterone replacement then? Yeah. But where's it coming from? It's up here. You got to go upstream. Make sense? Yeah, very critical to do that. Blood pressure starts to get messed up. Hormones get messed up. And guess what? When this happens, the pregnenolone steal, then it has an inhibitory it has an inhibitory effect on the thyroid. So now you get low thyroid. Here's another thing. If the cortisol is lowering the thyroid, and the thyroid is going down, and the body goes, let me increase the thyroid, and the body goes, stop that. And so it tries to attack the thyroid, and that's when you get Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And it tries to kill the thyroid because can you see what the body's doing? Because you're in so much stress. You got to get rid of the stress. Here's the thing, the most important, you can never get rid of stress. Andrea, you have to get rid of your perception of stress. It's all about perception. How come you can have two people right, have the same experience of negative childhoods and abuse and so on. One person ends up living under a bridge in Philly, right, being a pothead or a drug addict. The other one becomes a missionary and goes to a foreign land to try to get everybody right.
Right, their perception.
It's your perception. Who's responsible for your perception?
We are.
Eventually, you know what? Someday you got to grow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's never too late to have a childhood. Yeah, we can't, you know, we had no control over how our parents, you know, mistreated us or this and that. But guess what? God gave us a conscious mind and also an unconscious mind that you can affect using things like NET to then take responsibility for who we are. Because nobody's, you know, the party's not coming to you.
Right.
You have to go out, get out of the house and go to the party, right?
Right.
And well, make the party, exactly right, and invite everybody over. Right, the party's not coming to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is really critical. Can you see all the holistic approach of how things affect everything else?
Yeah.
So another thing that you need to look at is the labs, and this is why we recommend this for people. For example, this is an example of the blood work, right?
Okay.
The traditional model will look at your blood work and what level is that? What range? What's that say?
Clinical.
Right. Clinical range means what? Average.
Okay.
Let me ask you something. Clinically, average people are average people normally healthy?
You would think.
Look around in our society. Are average people healthy?
Probably not.
No, they're like overweight. They have, you know, they're on medications for things or something, or because they can't handle things. And, you know, you need to be on those things for a short time. Blood pressure meds, a couple of months. Antidepressants, 3 months. That's it. You shouldn't be on it forever. Because you need to get to the cause, right? Because and then your body gets used to it, and then it doesn't function the way it's supposed to anymore, right? So the clinical range is a very wide range because it's what's the average. If you compare yourself to that, then what's going to happen is you're not going to be healthy. So the traditional model, when they look at labs, they go, hey, we're trying to look at labs to see if you have lupus, see if you have Lyme, see if you have a disease, see if you have cancer, right? That's what the labs are for, to look for a disease. And if you're not within the range of the levels, they say they don't have the disease. So what does that mean? Just because you don't have the disease, does that mean you're healthy?
No.
No, that just means you don't have the disease. Just because you're not healthy, not sick, doesn't mean you're healthy. So therefore, when we do our labs, we look at it from the healthy range.
Okay.
It's narrower,
Yeah, it makes sense.
right?
Yeah.
The road narrow, right? The road that's wide is not good, because then you get distracted and do all kinds of silly stuff. See the yellow areas? Those are all in the clinical range. These would be what the doctors would say, oh, you're normal, blood work's normal. I started doing this work because people go, okay, go to your doctor, figure out what's wrong with you, and say, my blood work's normal, but I'm still sick.
Yeah, but you're still not.
See this? So now, the healthy range then, these red ones are outside the clinical range. So those are really, really abnormal.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Wow.
So for example, the glucose should be between 65 to 99, right? And then in the healthy range, it should be between 80 to 95. So if you look at sodium, in this case, it's 130. So that's not too bad. There's some other areas here that are more narrow. Let me see. Let me go to the other ones here. Like alkaline phosphatase here. Can you see this? Normal range is 39, and the clinical range to 117. See how much narrower this is? 64 to 91. So again, that's what you're looking for. Again, all the yellow is within the clinical range.
Gotcha.
So this would have been all normal. Can you see? And this, they would just be paying attention to the iron, the cholesterol, and so on. So that's what the ranges are. Now also,
Like blood count?
yeah, these are all. It's very, very comprehensive in terms of what we do. It goes all the way through. You have vitamin D levels. We're very. Here's the thing: when we look at the blood work, we're not looking for disease. We want to see the capacity of your digestion. We want to see how your immune system is. We want to see how your kidneys are working. We want to see how the organs are functioning. So this way, they can support you in detoxifying and allowing the body to function well. We're looking for that's what's called functional medicine. We want to look at your body to see how it's functioning as opposed to how is it broken.
Yeah.
Even if you're not broken, we can still help you because we don't need to give you a drug to suppress something. We want to give your body the nutrients, right? And also diet changes to make sure that your body gets healthier so you're on the optimal range. So you have more leeway, in other words. Okay?
So back to where you had the white blood count and the red blood count. So the difference in numbers there, like, so in your...
yeah, so look at the range in here. Like, for example, the white blood count, their range is 3.4 to 10.8.
Right.
Ours is 5.7 to 8.5. Right? It's narrow. Here's another thing that's really, 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 really important. Stop looking at the blood counts by themselves. When you get a report that we generate here, it tells you this blood count is related to the kidney, it's related to the cholesterol, it's related to thyroid, it's related to this blood count, it's related to this heavy metal thing. It looks at everything and how they relate to each other. The one by itself means really nothing. You have to, how does it relate to the rest of the community? And that's the way we look at the labs. Like, what is the functioning of your organs to be sure that you're healthy? Because if you're healthy, everything else will do well. When you just look at by itself, it's not complete.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Another thing we'll look at is the hair.
Okay.
What happened? This hair analysis, for example, look at the ranges here for aluminum. Can you see the clinical? 2.7. We're just saying no, it should be 0 to 2.2, right? So like this, but even then, look at this person with the hair. There's high aluminum, high lead. Can you see? You can see all this mercury, lead. This is very, very common.
All
that
the
comes.
metals aren't very good.
None you should have no heavy metals in your body.
No.
If they're coming out of you, that means they're inside of you. Okay?
Yeah.
Here's another thing that we're looking at here. Yeah, this is hair analysis too. You could see how's my calcium, how's my magnesium, my sodium, my potassium, copper, all these things. Lithium is one that's very low in most people because it's not in our soils anymore, and that affects depression. Can you see that? All these different things. Yeah, absolutely. So they give you lithium when you can really do that naturally. So another thing that we look for is the urine toxic metal challenge. You can see this is before the challenge where you take DMSA, right? You can see they're within normal limits, right? When you take the DMSA, a lot of people will take, okay, I'm going to do a blood test. And the doctor goes, there's no metals. Well, yeah, because they're hiding in your organs. They're in your kidney, they're in your liver, they're in your brain, right? They're in your pancreas. These are all hiding. So what we do, we have you take a chelating agent that grabs onto the metals and say, come with me. And now they show up. So before there was nothing here. Bismuth is on there. That's not good for you. So cesium is definitely not good. And look, this is lead. There was nothing. There was 1.2 within normal limits, but then when you pull it out, there's 32 and there's 24.
Of mercury, yeah.
And lead. Is that good? Okay, if you have lead in your body, it goes into your bones and it competes for calcium in your bones, so the bones can never be as healthy. And if you have all these other metals in your body, it lowers your immune system, so your immune system is always challenged. And guess what? If your immune system is low, then you have more likelihood of any kind of disease. Does that make sense? But can you see what functional blood work looks like in comparison to just looking at the labs by themselves? So, and then what we do, we generate a nutritional protocol based on your labs, based on your hair, based on your heavy metals, and the body goes, hey, listen, if you have these abnormalities, then you should be taking this for a couple of months, multi, B12, but you know it that you need this because you're lacking it.
Yeah.
In 2 months, you do retest again. What changes? As time goes by, you can monitor it, but instead of giving medication or just suppressing it, say, no, let's fix your lifestyle, how you eat, how you ingest nutrients, and then the body can then be healthier. And it's all natural.
And there's different milligram
Yes.
levels of all those too?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So another thing is gut dysbiosis. We talked about that already. When you get overstressed, your gut becomes inflamed and the bugs start living in there because the immune system is not functioning the way it's supposed to. And then you get hormonal imbalances, and we'll go more in detail about that in another seminar. So again, to detox, you got to do hair analysis, heavy metal toxicity, gut healing. You got to use the homeopathic as well, and dietary changes, and also nutritional supplement. just actually, I have a patient here that we've been working with. She's been on medications for headaches since she was a teenager, and it was how long ago was that? Maybe 3 weeks ago now? Mm-hmm. She took her last medication and she's been off. She's had no headaches anymore. And we worked with her doctor lowering her meds together, and she's just really happy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because we did, again, looking at physical, emotional, and chemical stresses. Mm-hmm. Emotional stressors, this is huge. 90% of immune system problems are emotionally based. Mm-hmm. And not just emotionally based, but not psychologically alone, but neuroemotionally based. And we have a seminar on that in detail, exactly what that means. Mm-hmm. Because emotions buried alive never die. They just stay inside your body. It's like bad data. There's a whole technique called NET. This is the master chart in detail. I know it's a little blurry here. For example, the gallbladder, liver, meridian have associated emotions like anger, resentment, stubbornness, repressing emotions, depression, indecision, irrationality, frustration, aggression. All these emotions can get stuck in there. Large intestine and lung could be dogmatic positioning, grief, sadness, yearning, anguish, crying, defensiveness. All these emotions are in the lung, large intestine meridian, which affects your body as well. Stomach, spleen, pancreas, low self-esteem, living through others, hopelessness. Listen to this in today's world, right? Over-concern, hopelessness, lack of control over events, worried, distrust, right? Mm-hmm. Despair, nervousness, stifled. I mean, this is like most people around. Yeah. And you wonder, I have stomach issues, spleen issues, pancreatic cancer. Can you see this? Mm-hmm. All these emotions are associated with that. It doesn't cause it. It contributes to weaknesses in the system, so the body just begins to break down. Small intestine, heart, thyroid, adrenals are all together. You know, lost, vulnerable, abandoned, deserted. Can you see this? Insecurity, paranoia, muddled thinking, emotional instability, depleted, suppressed, sluggish memory. Can you see? All are linked hormonally as well. Yeah. This is all based on Chinese acupuncture. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, all these emotions can be affected. Case study on that, I had a patient here that was sent to me by a colleague of mine from a different town about an hour away from here. And he knew that we did the technique, the NET. So this person had come to us. She'd already had low back surgery 10 years prior. But she was still in really, really severe pain. And she was in such agony that she couldn't do anything at home. She couldn't function. She was depressed. But her husband was getting tired of it. Like, you know, if you don't get anything done, like, we got to be done. Uh-huh. Can't do anything at home. We can't have relationships. Like, so that was a tall order, you know, and that's what she said to me during case history. If you don't help me, I'm getting a divorce. Like, okay. So.
That puts a lot on you.
No, it does. No, but you know why? I'm not doing the healing. They do the healing. So basically, make a long story short, I even hardly had to adjust her. Basically, mostly I had to do NET, mostly. And it probably took 2 to 3 months, and the pain was totally gone. Even I couldn't believe it. I said, are you sure the pain's gone? It's like, yeah, it's gone. Because again, what was being stuck, it was not a physical problem alone, even though the discs were healed already. The emotional stress was creating a sympathetic dominant system in the body when it was still in fight or flight. When you're in fight or flight, you can't be in healing and repair at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I know that with my surgeries too, like, and you know, I understand that, like, if I'm feeling good and emotionally doing, you know, having a good experience, then I'm not noticing the pain as much. But if I'm not feeling as well,
you notice it more. It becomes magnified. It basically magnifies in terms of what's going on. Because you're always going to feel physical, emotional, and chemical stress. It never goes away. It just gets magnified. Some are higher, some are lower. The question is, what's your endurance? You know, what can you endure? But how can you endure it? You got to be sure you're balanced physically, emotionally, and chemically. It's not what comes at you. You know what? It's not your debt. It's part of it, but how much do you have to pay off that debt? Right. Energetically, it's the same thing. You got to create so much abundance in yourself, physically, emotionally, chemically. That's why you got to manifest it, so that this way, when things come at you, it's like, I can handle it. But it takes time and consistent, you know, processes to kind of go forward that way. Okay. Physical stressors. autonomic nervous system imbalance or sympathetic dominance. That's huge, huge, huge. Because if you again stay in sympathetic dominance, it's very difficult to stay healthy and to be in repair mode. You know, you're either hanging out with your buddies and having a party, or you're waiting for somebody to come rob you. You just can't do both at the same time, right? It doesn't mix. You can't serve two masters. So the sympathetic dominance primarily comes from nerve system interference or subluxation. Because when these vertebrae become misaligned on a physical level caused by physical, emotional, and chemical stress, instead of allowing the body to function at 100%, where the cells and tissues and organs are getting 100% function because the brain's telling it what to do, you put pressure on the nervous system. Have you guys seen this before? This is from the University of Colorado. 40 years ago, Dr. Chung-Ha Soo did a study where, put your hand out like this if you can, right? Pretend that's a nerve.
Okay.
Put the pinky on top of that. That equals to about 40 millimeters of mercury, the weight of a dime. Within 1 to 2 minutes, they found out in research that that nerve will begin to malfunction at 60%, will decrease 60% function. How are you going to know if you're not in pain, right? And that's what happens when you get subluxations. And but that's why when you start to get adjusted, things get better. It's not because I took away your pain, I took the nerve system malfunction away, the body begins to communicate, and then the body begins to heal, because the communication is what allows things to heal. Right? And again, we did the study, gone over the study before. Dr. Henry Winsor was a pathologist. He found that in almost 100% of the cases, whatever the people died from the organ malfunction, that part of their spine had either the most arthritis or a small scoliosis. The equation being, if you stress the spine, you stress the nervous system, you're going to alter your health outcomes as well. Because again, the brain and tissue cell cannot communicate properly when you have subluxation. Here's what we found out in the functional neurology seminar. When you have subluxation, it inhibits the function of the frontal lobe. Here's what it is. You're a baby, right? You're in fetal position. You're in flexion, yes? That's your normal state. And think about how amazing that is. You're protecting yourself. An animal comes to try to eat you, you know, it's like your internal organs are safe, right? Guess what? When your frontal lobe begins to develop, these begin to inhibit. It inhibits the flexors. Now you can start to get up. Start lifting your head up, right? Looking around. When you start moving these, you start then stimulating the ears and also the proprioceptors and their mechanoreceptors to try to get you upright, and that's how you develop your neck curve. Okay? So now what? Here's another thing that when the frontal lobe begins to develop with proper functioning spine and nerve system with good communication, it inhibits what? The flexors to get you up. The whole goal for you is to get up and go get your food. If you don't go get your food, you're going to die. Okay? So you first learn how to walk, and then eventually you get your food. That's why you need parents to protect you until you can go get your own food. Not only that, when you're a baby, your sympathetic system is hyper, because you need to be like this. Who's going to eat me? Who's going to come get me? So you have to be like, right? And everything's rapidly moving. Your immune system is, that's why a lot of times there's a lot of sicknesses going on, because their immune systems are hyper, overreacting to everything. It's a new world. Right? That's the way it's created. When the neocort or the frontal lobe of the brain begins to develop, the more it develops, it calms down the sympathetic system, so you can be more calm, and it calms down the immune system, so you're not so hyper. When kids come out and they're not getting adjusted, and they're exposed to chemicals in the environment and so on, and stress in the environment, their frontal lobe development becomes delayed. And guess what happens? They stay in flexion. Their immune system is still hyper. Ear infections, colic, GI issues. Can you see this?
Yeah.
And also, they're sympathetically dominant. They get colic. They just like cry all the time. ADD, ADHD. How many kids do you see are running around in school because the frontal lobe development has been hindered because they're not getting adjusted properly, and from the environment? Can you see this? It's all because of brain function.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's why, and I didn't know this when we take care of all the kids in the practice, I didn't know the neurology, but I just know when you balance the brain and nerve system, the frontal lobe starts to wake up again, and the ADD starts to go away. You know, the tics from that they were having start to go away. The immune system starts to begin to calm down. The sicknesses that they used to have are, beginning to diminish. So it's because you're letting the brain do what it's supposed to do. Right? And you don't have to do anything. You don't have to force anything. You just got to let it.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to talk about next week. You got to do what? Manifest it. Don't fight it.
Right.
Stop fighting yourself.
Work with the flow.
Yeah, go with the flow. But see, if the flow is interrupted, and you're going to do that in more detail, how are you interrupting your flow? Where is your mental subluxation that you're creating not to manifest things in your life? It's the same thing on a physical level. Does that make sense? Again, so it inhibits the flexors, the frontal lobe, modulates the immune system, and inhibits the sympathetic system. And that's why, here's another thing. Each time you get adjusted, it reboots your nervous system. It lights up your whole brain, basically. You start making new neuronal connections, and the new brain starts to look around going, hey, I need to fix that. Hey, I need to fix that. And that's why it does. Think about your job, right? Let's say your company did really well, and they say, you know what? We got $5 billion last year. Take a year off, full pay. You're just going to sit on your couch and watch TV? I mean, how long can you keep doing that?
No.
What are you going to do? Oh, got to fix the kitchen. Hey, got to buy new, right? Because money's still coming in.
Yeah.
Like, oh, got to paint this kitchen here. Oh, got to buy new furniture, right? Don't you start creating things?
Stuff, yeah.
Because that's what your brain does. Every time you get adjusted, that's why it doesn't matter. People come in, oh, have you ever worked with this condition? We don't work with any conditions. We don't try to fix conditions. We're not a traditional doctor trying to fix broken things. We're trying to get the body to be in a healthy state so it can function the way it's supposed to be created, which is to be healthy.
Right.
Your default setting is to be healthy. Think about this. Being healthy is actually your default setting. Becoming sick takes a lot of hard work. Think about that. You have to not exercise. You have to think negatively. You have to just lay in bed. You just have to, just not eat properly. Don't move your body and continue to think. It's a lot of hard work. Right? Sit in school all day and just be bored and just sit and watch TV and just shut your brain off. I mean, it's a lot of hard work to get sick. But we don't realize that because the world allows you to do that. If we don't take conscious, again, you have to take conscious, grab your consciousness and be in control of it. Because if you don't create your own consciousness, it's going to become, unconscious is going to keep coming out. Again, the nerve system is really very critical with regard to that. So again, ideally you should have optimal health, but when you have these subluxations, your nerve system becomes interfered with, your body malfunctions, you lose your health, and then look at the last thing. It's the end stage. In our traditional model, what do? They try to get rid of the effect. Right? You have to make sure you're healthy. You have to be sure you function properly. Make sure you get rid of nerve interference as much as possible. Make sure the subluxations in your spine don't exist, and that's how you can stay optimally healthy. And that's why you don't just get adjusted to be out of pain. Like, you came for a condition. We didn't try to treat that condition. We got your body to communicate, and the condition went away. It's not a treatment for that condition. It's allowing the body to be healthy. In a healthy state, the body doesn't need symptoms. Right? And you just allow that system to balance itself out. There's 6 components to this, basically, not just 3. Structural, biochemical, EMFs, toxic overload, allergies, infections, and emotional stress. So we've gone over this before. Remember this? The chiropractic Dr. Perot, who was a cancer prevention doctor, and basically he found that people who were under chiropractic care for 5 years or more compared to cancer patients, they had 400 greater immune competence in cancer patients and 200% greater immune competence compared to the people that were not getting adjusted but did not have cancer. Right? And also, if you remember this article, this is now, look at this, how long ago that was now? 3 years ago now. They'll have to rewrite the textbooks. Remember this? It's a stunning discovery that overturns decades of textbook teaching. Researchers at the School of Medicine have determined that the brain is directly connected to the immune system. We just talked about that, right? The frontal lobe especially, and the vessels previously thought not to exist. How these vessels could have escaped detection when the lymphatic system has been so thoroughly mapped throughout the body is surprising on its own. I really did not believe there were any structures in the body that we're not aware of. I thought the body was mapped out, said Jonathan Kipnis, a professor of the Department of Neuroscience and the director of University Center of Brain Immunology in Gallia. Dr. Kent here put together an article. Basically, they found that enhanced respiratory bursts following an adjustment allows the immune system to destroy viruses and bacteria. And that's why when we adjust kids here, they get better really quick.
Yeah.
I've had many kids come through the practice that used to be the sick kids, and just through the adjustment alone, they get better, especially with ear infections. Over a 6-month period, people that did not receive chiropractic care, the CD4 count is a measure of your immune system. It actually went down, right? People that were getting adjusted, the CD4 count went up 48%. So again, but why is it doing that? We're not trying to fix the immune system. We're trying to let it function the way it's supposed to. If your brain and nerve system is communicating, you're going to be healthy. And again, these are the things you don't even see. And vice versa, that when you're subluxated, you don't see that you're degrading, you don't see that your mind's going downhill, that your depression's getting more, can you see what I mean? Yeah. But it's getting worse and worse. But again, the purpose is to allow all of us to have the opportunity, and to summarize this evening, it's physical, emotional, and chemical. And that we have the technology, right, to allow your system to be measured, so you have certainty to know that what we're doing is working. Our goal is to be sure, as you live the rest of your life, because nothing's promised, right, that you can live a life that's most joyful, most connected, so you could then not just be focused on what you can get, but what you can give to others. It's not true? And imagine what would happen in this world if we were focused on giving rather than just receiving. There would be so much abundance, because we wouldn't be able to stand it. No, here you go. No, here you go, right? Can you imagine that? Like, here, they said $50. Like, no, here's 100. Like, but there would be no lack in the world. But it's about people like holding on to that, and they say that the hands that you receive from are the hands that you give from. That if you're holding on to stuff because you're so afraid of losing it, you can't receive anymore. You have to let it go, and you can receive more. It's a law of manifestation, and you know that. So you'll talk about that next week. Again, it's a heavy burden to me to have to talk to a few people like us, because guess what? We need the world to know about this, and that's why I'm inviting you to come speak next week, so that you can allow people the opportunity to share and be open and be connected, because people are dying out there left and right, or suffering unnecessarily, because they don't know the truth about health that you and I know that they need to know. So those of you online, visit our website, drmariana.com, and also we're on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And those of you that are online too, go ahead and type in your questions. We can answer those in the comment section another time. And if you found value in this video, please give us a like and comment below as well. And if you have friends that you would like to share this with, you probably know a friend or two, or a relative that's been suffering with challenges that they've been trying to help themselves with, and they're not getting any results, been trying to do traditional model. So let us pass this information to them and tag them on this, and do them a favor. If you yourself are having challenges as well, just give us a call and see what we can do to help you. The best thing to do is come to our seminars. So this way we can meet you without you having to have the pressure of actually connecting with us right away. Our amazing special guest next week, with just one open quotation, because we're going to leave it open for manifestation. You like that? It's Andrea Holtman. Come here. Introduce yourself. Say hi to everyone.
Hello.
Here she is. She'll be here
I'll
next.
be talking about manifesting, bringing into your life what you would like, anything from small to large. It's all available to you.
So look forward to that next week, 6:30. Here at our practice. We'll see you then, right?
Okay, thank you.
May 14th, manifesting the life that you want. And so let me close with this. I love this. they attribute this to Mother Teresa. She didn't say that. She actually didn't say this. It was this guy that came up with it. So people are illogical and reasonable and self-centered. Love them anyway. I'm doing that like a Jewish person, right? Love them anyway. Self-centered. If you do good, people will accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Do good anyway. If you're successful, you will win false friends and true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you're honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. People favor underdogs but follow only the top dogs. Fight for a few underdogs anyway. What you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build anyway. People really need help but may attack you if you do help them. Help people anyway. Give the world the best you have and you'll get kicked in the teeth. Get dentures. No, give the world the best you have anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, they may be jealous. Be happy anyway. You see, in the final analysis, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. Thank you very much. Have a good evening until our next seminar. See you soon, Dr. Dennis Mariano. And thank you so much for being here this evening. Good night.